This episode is dedicated to Zenny. I love that we have a mutual hate for diets now, and may we never go back. Hey y'all, it's a Friday night and I actually don't have plans tonight, so I'm spending it with you guys. This is going to be a follow-up on my last conversation about beauty, and in the last conversation it was all about the hair, but tonight I want to talk about weight, and that's because I've heard this on both sides of the field. I've heard guys and girls tell me that they feel, at times, that they feel really fat and just really unattractive. And I want to share my journey because weight was actually something I struggled with for like 10 years, believe it or not. It was off and on, and I did not have an eating disorder, but body dysmorphia, in which I would see myself and yes, there were times where I genuinely did put on some pounds, but in my mind, it became so ginormous. Like I felt like a balloon, and it was actually linked to pain and trauma because as a young person, I was always pretty athletic throughout high school. And when I quit sports and started to put on some pounds, a family member, actually a couple family members would comment on it. And I know that they meant well, but it was so painful at the time because I really felt rejected. And I felt like, being beautiful was a way in which I could be accepted in this modern society. And to feel like I lost that felt devastating. And I'm sharing this from a place of being healed at this point. But I made so many mistakes along the way just so that I would never have to hear the words, "Oh, you're getting fat again." It really started in college, and I remember when the insecurity of my weight began, and I allowed it to fester in my mind. I would look at some of the people around me who had bodies that I envied, and I would look at what they ate, and I mistakenly thought that people were thin because of two reasons. One, either they had crazy fast metabolisms and could eat whatever they wanted, or two, they just ate very little. And because I had such a narrow, simplistic view of weight and weight loss, I decided, okay, well, I don't think I have a super fast metabolism. I'll just eat very little then. And it didn't help that I had some friends that had lost a lot of weight due to caloric restrictions, very severe caloric restrictions. It didn't help that they were getting good results. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to hop on this bandwagon and go for it. So I remember restricting my calories, and I did lose, the first time I ever tried it, I lost a lot of weight in a very short period of time. It felt so good. And actually from that point on, it almost became an addiction where I would binge a few weeks and then go on these fasting, sort of extended periods of fasting. And it worked for a while, but eventually I could not sustain, that kind of fasting lifestyle for too long. It affected my sleep because I don't know if you guys know this, but if you're not getting enough complex carbohydrates in your system, you don't sleep very well and you don't sleep many hours. It was affecting my metabolic rates, and actually that causes you to gain weight in the long run. So I quit that for a while. And I knew something was wrong mentally when, I had gotten very, very sick and I was hospitalized. And that week, because of high fevers, I lost my appetite and I lost a lot of weight very quickly. Once again, not because I was trying to this time, but because I was really sick. And when I recovered, I remember thinking to myself, oh no, I'm well now, which means I'm going to go back to eating the way I always have, which means I'm going to put on that weight again. Like, hold up, Jasmine. You were so ill and you were actually celebrating the fact that you were ill just because it made you thinner. And, I should have realized at that point that something very unhealthy was a very healthy behavior of thinking was developing in my mind, but I didn't. And I kind of kept going with that. And I remember, going on this extended trip, to see my family in Europe. And, when you're on extended trips, it's actually almost impossible to watch your diet. And so I was just eating freely. I was just enjoying being with family that I had not seen in a very long time. In fact, some family members I hadn't even seen at all. And coming back from that trip, I lost weight without even trying. And I remember a couple of my friends commented and they were like, what did you do? And I was like, honestly, I didn't really do anything. I just was on vacation. And it almost seemed so counterintuitive that I was eating anything and was losing weight. And looking back, it's because when I had the opportunity to eat as much as I wanted, I didn't because I would get full more easily. But when I was calorie counting, watching my diet, and forcing myself to eat, less than 1,000 or 1,200 calories a day, it would actually make me binge on food even more. So ultimately, I would put on all that weight and more. But I kind of forgot about this whole situation. And I went back to calorie counting again. And again, right, hit a wall. Well, finally, in my senior year of college, instead of going to Jesus to say, you know what, I'm really hurt by what some of those people said about my weight. They fat shamed me, which, okay, it's really funny looking back now because I know those people didn't mean it in that way, but it's really it's really kind of scary how seriously I took their words and how I didn't heal from it. And I allowed that unfestered wound to dictate my lifestyle habits in the future. Well, like I said, in my senior year of college, I remember moving to campus for the first time. And my senior year was so busy and there would be so many times that I just didn't even have time to eat. And even if I did have time to eat, I would restrict my calories. So I lost so much weight. And some of my friends realized that and they told me, and the way that they told me, I knew that they were saying, Jasmine, you don't look too good. You might want to put on some weight again. But I took it as a badge of honor. I wore it as a badge of honor, in fact. And I felt that, and I was proud that finally, after many years of practicing caloric restriction and dieting, that I finally achieved my goal weight, which was actually being slightly underweight from, what was healthy for me. And after I graduated college, I remember moving back home and I put on all the weight. And that was the first time in a long time where I actually looked myself in the mirror one day and I started crying. I couldn't explain. I wasn't feeling sad, but so many tears started to flow out of my eyeballs. And the Holy Spirit on the inside just spoke so clearly. He was like, Jasmine, you have not been loving yourself all these years. And therefore, you have really treated yourself like a slave, like you've enslaved your body, and you forced it to live under such dire circumstances. Like, to starve yourself is really a form of self-hatred. Stop. And something did break in me, and I apologized to God. I apologized to myself. And then I took the other extreme, actually, where I just actually started to eat whatever I wanted to. So that was great. Post-college life, I actually stopped caring. And after grad school, though, I remember it was COVID, and, a lot of us put on some extra pounds during COVID. And I started to be unhappy with the way I looked again. And, sometimes that's not a bad thing, to look at yourself and go, okay, I recognize that I could look better. And by looking better, I made the same mistake. And I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to binging and then dieting, because that's the fastest way to lose weight. And I really wanted to reach my goal weight of 115 pounds before I took my grad school graduation photos. I don't know why 115. It's a pretty arbitrary number, but I ended up losing, I think, about 10 to 12 pounds pretty quickly. And, totally forgetting the lesson that I had learned 3 years prior. And I remember taking my grad school photos and looking at them and thinking, I'm still not happy with the way I look. And how is that possible after working so hard, reaching my goal weight, and yet I'm still not satisfied? And again, that was a second moment of repentance for me. I ended up moving to Singapore shortly after that. And you know what? I went straight back to just eating whatever I wanted to, putting on the weight again. Man, I don't even know how many cycles of this I went through. And then 2021 was when a family member, again, commented on my weight. And it just caused me to go to another extreme where I decided, okay, I am going to go all out. Fitness, food, I'm going to go all out, because I'm so tired of never being able to sustain the weight that I want to. And instead of just going to 115, I want to hit 110 pounds, and I want to keep it there. So by going all out, I'm telling you guys, I would eat only one meal a day. I would run on an empty stomach. I would try to avoid all kinds of carbs and sugars. And I think I managed to reach 112 pounds. So I don't think I was like a 111, 112. I didn't hit 110 like I intended to, because I knew things were bad when I started a brand new job. And the first day of work, my coworkers, take me out to eat for my first work lunch. And because I was on the 1 day a meal diet, like, I really would try to avoid eating breakfast and lunch altogether. And I would only eat dinner. And when I ate lunch with them, like, I had to eat, because I didn't want to tell them that I was on a 1 meal a day diet. I had to eat with them. And I had so much anxiety. And that was the first time I think that I really started to realize, like, okay, this whole dieting thing is getting me to a very, very scary point. That time when I had gotten sick, and had made that comment to myself that I wish I was still sick so that I could maintain a slim figure. To me, that wasn't as scary, but this was scary. Like, the fact that I couldn't enjoy a work lunch with my coworkers, especially on my first day at my first full-time job, like, that's sad, because I'm such a communal person. I love gatherings. I love meals with friends. And the fact that I can't even enjoy something that is so pure. Like, since when did I get anxious over eating lunch with colleagues? So it has been a journey since 2021. And I'll admit that there were times like I fell back into fasting, and I really tried very, very hard to not put on weight, because just hearing the words, "you're fat" or "you're getting fat," triggered memories from the past of people that I loved rejecting me. And even though they weren't, they just had my best intentions at heart. And it's true, when they had commented that to me, it's true that was a period of my life where I was stressed and I was eating a lot more unhealthy food, and they were just concerned about my health. But the way it came out, yes, again, I think to tell someone that they're getting fat might not be the most helpful or the most loving thing to say, but now I know where they were coming from. They were just wanting me to be healthier. And, after since 2021 till this year was the year where I was like, you know what? I am getting gastric pain from all this dieting. It's affecting my sleep. I don't want this affecting my life anymore. 10 years of this is way too long. And I'm so grateful, for my church and my pastor here in Singapore, because he really taught me a lot about the problem with self-reliance and self-dependence, is that when we depend on our own wisdom and our own strength to solve problems in our lives, we as human beings, we typically think that the most complicated solution is the thing that's going to fix us, or the thing that costs the most money is the thing that will cure us, when really God's wisdom involves solutions so simple that we often dismiss them because we don't think they'll be effective. And how wrong I was. I remember when I first started praying to the Lord about being set free from an unhealthy self-image and unhealthy relationship with my food. One of the first things he told me to do was, Jasmine, I still want you to exercise, because exercise is good for you, but I don't want you to do exercises that you hate. Not that I hated Pilates or running, but I forced myself to do those exercises regularly because I wanted to maintain a certain kind of figure. And he's like, I want you to quit all of that and just do what you love. And I love to swim, but I was like, swimming doesn't really help you lose weight. But I thought, you know what, for my mental well-being, I will start swimming again. And so I started doing that. That was the first thing. The second thing the Lord told me to do was, Jasmine, quit fasting entirely. Because there's part of me that still didn't want to let go of it. So I was fasting once a week. And he's like, I just want you to quit this. Stop using the guise of spirituality to say that fasting is good for you. Because I would do that. I would fast and say that, oh, well, this is a good thing. It's in the Bible. But I wasn't even fasting for the right reason. I wasn't even fasting because God told me to fast. I was just fasting because I wanted to lose weight. And that's not why you fast. It was really hard for me to let go of the fasting because it was such a crutch for me, but I did let it go. And then the Lord was like, Jasmine, I want you to eat freely. Eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. And I was like, but I can't trust myself to do that because that's how I put on so much weight in the past. I just allowed myself to eat whatever I wanted to. But I decided to obey the voice, and I thought, okay, I'll try it out. And if I don't see any results, then I can just go back to whatever it was I was doing. But let me tell you guys, in the last 6 months of just living freely, I am a different person. I'm not anxious about any kind of meal. I can eat any time of the day now, by the way. I eat things that I enjoy eating. I still eat healthy foods, but I don't restrict myself from certain quote unquote junk foods when I really am craving those things. And because I'm not operating under the scarcity mindset, I really can stop when I'm just full, and I don't binge on food anymore because I know like I'll always have the food around. If I'm hungry, I can eat it. I don't have to like subject myself to like certain days of the week in which I'm eating these foods, or maybe certain times of the month in which I'm eating these foods. And that has produced such a radiance in my life in which I am actually like so much happier. I'm enjoying food. I'm enjoying exercise. And that has produced like, I know I look better, not maybe because I've lost that much weight. Like by swimming, I have lost some, but not to the extent that I used to lose weight. But in the end, I look better. And that's why God's ways always lead you to life. And if you're doing something in which you're sensing that there's no life in it anymore, could I encourage you to take a step back and say, okay, am I operating on my own wisdom here, or am I operating on the wisdom of God? Because the wisdom of God is always simple. It's always going to lead you to experience more life and more freedom and more satisfaction. So even though I'm not at the weight that I used to dream of, right? Like my arbitrary number of 110 pounds, but I actually think I look far better now than I did when I was like 111, 112 pounds, starving myself and actually feeling my arms go numb when I wasn't getting enough food. Like that's something that God would never want for anyone. Like beauty should not have to come at such a price. And ultimately, beauty comes from Him. So if you're struggling, maybe it's not weight for you, but there's a certain body part that you absolutely hate. And maybe it's because people have said very thoughtless things about that body part. Can I just say to you that that body part is special and that God can redeem it? That if you are unhappy with your image, that God can make you beautiful. I don't know how, but He has a solution for you. And all you need to do is ask Him. And I mean, that may sound so shallow, like, oh, I only come to God because I want to look more beautiful. But if we're not going to God, who else are we going to go to? Like our local beauty clinics, who honestly, like, they might be able to help us with certain issues, but not with the deeper issue of healing from past words, healing from a negative self-image. You know, when you are healed from that, you let go of a lot of the unnecessary pain that you might be tempted to put yourself through just to prove those people wrong, prove to them that you aren't fat, prove to them that you have a beautiful face or whatever it is. Like spending your whole life trying to prove yourself to people is exhausting. Take it from me. But when you are eating and exercising from a place, or even just using makeup from a place of, you know, I'm doing these things because I want to celebrate the body that I've been given, and not because I want to alter it drastically because I need to look a certain way to attract a certain kind of person so that I finally feel validated. You know, in the Bible, when God created all things, He's the one that validated it and called it good. And only God can validate mankind and make us truly feel satisfied with the way that we look. And honestly, God can help you glow up too. I mean, there's certain things that God's spoken to me about, you know, even like certain makeup products that I've been led to buy, you know, like little things that aren't too expensive. And yes, like they help me look better. And I'm really grateful, you know, that God's ways are always so easy because His burden is light. Like God would never ask you to do something that makes you feel burnt out and so empty in the end. So if I could leave all of us with this one verse. And let me look it up. Okay, so that verse is Psalm 111, verse 10. The verse says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So what that means is not that you're scared of God. That's not what the fear of the Lord means. Fear of the Lord means that you honor the fact that he's given you a body, first of all. Like if we didn't have a body, we wouldn't be able to experience life. The body's so important. And that he wants us to steward it in a way that makes him happy. You know, when we take measures to hurt and harm our bodies, that brings so much pain to him. But when we acknowledge that he created our bodies and that he finds so much pleasure in seeing us happy, especially with the way that we look, the way that he's designed us to be, you will begin to be wise. And I started to deviate from wisdom when I thought that, you know, God didn't care about my body, that I had to manage my body, because if I didn't, no one else would. But no, the Lord cares about your body. He wants you to like it. He wants you to love it. And if you're not satisfied with it, just bring that before him, and he will show you a way of escape, a simple way to make some changes, some good changes. And I guarantee you, you will start loving those changes, because they won't be hard at all to implement. So here's to a more beautiful you in 2025. And I want you to know that you are loved for who you are, not for how you look. And the radiance that comes from a heart that is at rest is far more beautiful than beauty, but with lots of stress.